My name is Liz Edwards. I'm one of the welfare benefits and general queries specialists that work on the email helpline. So it may well be that you've either met me through one of these sessions or I've answered some emails that you may have sent in. I've been working with Carers UK for a few years now. So please feel free as we go through today's presentation, as mentioned, to just drop any questions into the chat box or make a little note on pen and paper. I'm very happy to go through them at the end of the session as long as time allows. If time does get away from us, I'll make sure that you do receive a response from me, or we'll give you details of how you can email us directly. If maybe after today's session you have a little think and you think, oh, okay, what I would like to do is just know a little more about X, Y, or Z. And it might be that actually you have some thoughts or experiences that you want to share with the group. And of course, you're very welcome to do that. It's a big part of what we're doing today. It's about sharing and also learning from each other. Today, we're really thinking around form filling hints and tips. Now, I live in the world of welfare benefits, and even I know that benefit claim forms can be complicated. They can be confusing. I can see a few nods. And getting help to complete the forms promptly can reduce stress, and it can also help you get your claim processed more quickly where time allows. You can claim some benefits online now, and sometimes, you claim via a paper form. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start us off with something a little different for these sessions, and I'm going to play you one of the new information videos that have been created that are available on the Carers UK website. And then I'm going to expand on a few of the points and provide some extra hints and tips, and of course, answer any questions that you may have. So you just need to bear with me while I just pop up this video. Okay, here we go. If anyone's got any difficulty hearing it, please let me know, and I'll make sure that there's some captions on as well. So hopefully we'll be able to just take it from it. Okay, I'll start, and it's very short. So let's see what we can learn from this.
When you're considering applying for financial support, the process can feel quite daunting. From finding out what you're eligible for to filling in the forms, it can be easy to feel a bit lost and bewildered. But support is available. Here are 5 tips to help you when you're applying for financial support. Finding time to fill in a form can be a challenge. When it feels like every minute is taken up, it can be easy to put it off. But you don't have to fill out the form in one go. In most cases, you'll have up to a month to complete the form, but if necessary, you may be able to request an extension. You could seek some assistance from your local carers centre if needed. There is a handy local directory on the Carers UK website that you can use to look up yours. Try making a list of all the information you might need to complete the form. Depending on the benefit you're applying for, this could be details like your national insurance number, your bank details, your income, and any savings. Filing everything in one place so that it's easy to find can help make the task quicker. Read through the whole application form, add in your own notes if you need to. When filling in the form, don't be afraid to repeat the same information in different sections and include as much detail as you can. Contact the benefit provider if you require an alternative format or if you need additional support. If you're not sure how much help you need or how long things take, you could try keeping a diary for a week or so. Documenting your schedule and recording how long each task takes could help you realise just how much you're doing and help support your application. It's a good idea to collect evidence and submit a copy with the claim pack if you can. This could include a doctor's report or an occupational therapist's recommendation, or even a statement from a friend or family member. Remember to keep a copy of the form and any supporting evidence you need. For further support and advice, visit carersuk.org or email advice@carersuk.org. Whatever you're going through, We're always here to help.
Okay, so as I mentioned, that's one of a suite of different videos that are appearing on the website. So I would encourage you to have a look because there are so many different ones there. But I really like this one. I think it's really useful and it goes through some of the key points. So I hope you found that helpful. But what I want to do is really just expand on some of them. I don't want you to feel that you're on your own as you go through this process. And there's a lot of information out there that can help you. One of the things that I do with all my presentations, those of you who have been before know that I include in the slides copies of links to different organisations or different parts of the Carers UK website that can provide extra help and support there as well. And of course, there's our details on how you can get in touch with us. So thinking around what we know so far when it comes to form filling, I really just want to reiterate that actually it's important that you do take your time, okay? You don't need to try and finish it all in one go. It's not a marathon here. You can break it down into little sprints as well. The forms are really long and complex, some of them, and they need a lot of information. So you might not have all of that information to hand when you start to make the claim. So I've got a couple of key things just to think around before you start to make any claim, whether it's filling out a form or whether it's completing the information online. And that's all about the guidance notes. So read through the form and the guidance notes first before putting pen to paper or starting to type any kind of application you have. So you've got an idea of what's needed. When you start to fill in the application, think around the type of pen you're using. What colour ink? Most applications, pen and paper, they like black ink. Okay, so make sure you've got black ink, not red, not green, not even blue, really. Black is the way forward there. And if you do make a mistake, don't worry, just cross it out, leave it there so you can see that you haven't altered it, you haven't changed it. And then don't use correcting fluid, like I say, a simple cross out and then just continue on. They're not looking for correct grammar and punctuation. They're not even considering how neat your handwriting is. You know, it's really about getting that information on there. Another key thing that's really important is thinking really long and hard about the date you wish the benefit you want to start claiming to start from. So for example, if we take our friend carer's allowance can be applied for 3 months in advance. So you would need to work out, if you were leaving work, for example, when could be the first time you would start to want to receive payment of that benefit. Carer's allowance can also be backdated 3 months in arrears. Backdating and claiming in advance can only be done there is a couple of provisos, but can generally only be done at the time of application. So sadly, if you applied the carer's allowance and realised that you were entitled to it 3 months earlier, you may miss out on 3 months' payments. So really think around what the date you want your claim to start from. Couple more things just to get you in the general area to get you started. When you give information on any kind of form, whether it's a financial form or a benefit form, what I'm going to say is state everything, even the obvious. Give as much information as possible you can, especially if it's in relation to a condition or a situation. Everyone's condition is unique to them. Every situation is unique to how that person is, what help and support they may need, how their finances are calculated, for example. So even if something is normal to you or is just part of your daily life, maybe you've made adaptations to make things easier for you, give that information. Even if it seems completely obvious to someone, it's better to take the view that nobody knows anything unless you tell them it. Okay, so with that in mind, you might have to be doing a lot of writing here. So you can write outside the boxes. And if there is and if you have extra information, at the end of all applications, you will find a further information or any extra information that you can complete so you can provide more information. What I would say is when you use the extra information boxes, just give the little heading. So question 1, further information, and then you can pop it there. Question 7, further information, and then you can pop it there. So whoever is making the decision or processing the claim is really clear around what this information is in relation to. Maybe you filled in all of those extra boxes and you need more space. Can you do that? Yes, you can. So just get some ordinary paper and make sure you put the name of the person who's applying for the benefit, their national insurance number at the top, and number the pages and enclose those as well. And in your extra information box, the very last thing you need to write is there are additional pages attached to this claim or included in this claim, and then they'll all stay together there. If possible, and I know it's not always possible, get advice from specialists, okay? So maybe it's a welfare benefits advisor, or maybe someone else who's familiar with completing the form. This can increase the likelihood of you not having to go to appeal or asking for someone else to look at the claim, but there's no guarantees of that. But what is guaranteed is that if you have someone helping you with this process, it should help make things a little bit easier for you in terms of you're going to collect that information and somebody else is going to pop that information onto the form for you. So it can help reduce the time that you need to spend doing this to free up your time to do other things. So if you are able to access specialist advice through your local carer centre, please think about doing that. Okay, so what really matters is whether you need the help, not whether you're getting the help. So when it comes to things like benefit claims for disability benefits, or if you're claiming a benefit for ill health, for example, and you're not sure how much help you would need, as we saw in the video there, it can be really useful to make a diary, keep a diary for a week or so. It doesn't need to be anything posh. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. It could just be in a notebook or maybe on some A4 paper. I've seen little notes on backs of envelopes before. So think around the kind of benefit that you're going to be claiming. Some benefits, so for example, DLA or child disability payment, as part of their claimant pack, they include a template diary that you can have a little look at in the guidance notes. And sometimes most benefits and guidance notes say, here's a space for you to make some thoughts, to make some notes there. So please do, before you start to tackle something, think around how long you are spending doing something, or how long are you supporting someone to do this. For example, some benefits, they're going to be in your name. So it might be that you're claiming carer's allowance, so you're claiming universal credit. Or it might be that you're completing a form on behalf of someone that you're caring for. So it could be a disability form. So something like attendance allowance or personal independence payment or adult disability payment. So it could be that you're completing a form on behalf of someone else, or you're completing a form on behalf of yourself. But either way, you need to know how long or what it is you're trying to meet in terms of criteria. So when you really think around having those insights, include as much detail as you can. Is the carer support, is it given during the day? Is it needed during the night? Is it needed both times, during the day and during the night? And this can be really useful, and as well, it can be used as evidence. And we saw there on that video, it's really important that you do gather that evidence, because what matters is whether you need the help, not whether you were already getting it. So if something's a struggle, make a note of that as well. So if someone is struggling, but they're saying they don't need help, but actually they've adapted their life so that they are using an aid or an adaptation, or they've changed completely how they do something because of their health condition or disability, then that needs to be made a note of as well. Again, it's all about that evidence. It needs to be collected and submitted, either when you make that application or as soon as afterwards. Don't hold off putting an application in because you're waiting for a letter from an occupational therapist, for example, put on the original claim that you are waiting for evidence, and it will be submitted in due course. And that way the DWP or the local authority know that there's further evidence coming, and then they'll not make a decision until it's come. What I would say when it comes to getting evidence from healthcare professionals, just something to be aware of, is that some healthcare professionals may charge for providing evidence. They are allowed to charge, so always just check. Some do, some don't. There doesn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason. But if yours is one that charges, or even actually it is just good practice, think around, what is it I want that person to evidence? You know, if somebody just writes 3 lines and confirms the medical condition, that isn't actually going to be very helpful in terms of showing how you meet the eligibility criteria for a particular benefit. It might be that if you want evidence to show that you have difficulty with your mobility, or the person you're caring for has difficulties with mobility, that you take the guidance from the form and you think, so I need someone to confirm that actually if I walk more than 50 meters, I have substantial pain or substantial tiredness, fatigue or exhaustion after that, and then ask a physiotherapist or someone like that who's maybe providing the evidence to include that in their letter. And then that shows it's really useful evidence, and it shows how the criteria is met for the benefit that you're applying for as well. Something else, it was on the video, but I can't stress how important that is. Maybe some of you who have claimed benefits before, maybe you're a little bit like myself, and it's always just good practice, just in case, to keep a copy of your form. Okay, so there's different ways that you can do this because not everyone's got a printer. So obviously you could print it if it's online, or you could download it and save it to your hard drive or to your phone or to a tablet or any device that you've completed the application on. You always have that option to download and then save a copy, or you could print it. Or if you've got a paper version and you don't have a scanner or a printer, you could take photographs of each page, take a photograph of any documents that you provide. Always send anything recorded if you can, and then just double check that it has arrived. I've known many things go astray over the years, so it's always important just to keep that just in case, especially if you paid for that letter. You don't want to send the one letter that you've got off and then find that it's got lost in the post, for example. A lot of local processing centres for job centres and things like that, at one point they did take letters from you. So if you do have a working relationship with your job centre or maybe a work coach, it might be that they would be happy to take that and send it on for you. But it is just worth double checking, you know, what you can do with your evidence, because you really don't want to lose it after you've worked so hard to get it. Something else just to be mindful of when we're filling out forms, when it talks a little bit about health conditions, a lot of forms talk about fluctuating conditions. So if the person that you support, for example, has a condition that is actually better some days than others, because not everyone has the same levels of pain every day, not everyone has the same feelings of exhaustion every day. If you are having to work within something that does change on a day-by-day basis, you know, how someone's feeling or what they're able to do is very dependent maybe on what happened the day before, or where they are in their medication cycle, or if they've had treatment recently, or maybe they're waiting for treatment. I'm sure you get the picture. So if someone has fluctuating conditions, instead of saying, you know, they have good days or bad days or normal days, think very much around bad days and better days to describe the changes in their condition. So if you use something like on a good day or on a normal day, that can imply that actually there are times where the person you're caring for needs no extra help on these days. And experience shows us that actually it is very rare that if someone needs care and support, that there are ever any days where they need no care or supervision or support at all. So it's better to say that on one of my better days, I can do this, and on one of my bad days, I need help and support to do this, for example. So very much thinking around the language that you're using. And on that note, if you have the it varies option, don't tick it. Don't tick it varies, okay? Because it could vary, but actually what we want to do is suggest that the activity potentially can't be done, but if you tick it varies, it suggests that the activity can be done, and they'll look very much on, well, if you can do it, how often can you do it? And if you can do it once, why can you not do it twice? So when you've got the choice between yes, I can do it, no, I can't do it, or it varies, for example, think around, no, I can do it, but on a better day, I might be able to do it. So you are addressing it varies, but you're doing it in a way where somebody can't just go down the form and just go, oh, it varies. So if it varies, they can do it. So that's okay. And then they're not going to look into it in a lot of depth. And on that note, it's really important that you don't play down a condition. Include a description of needs on the bad days as well as the better days, so that person has that clear insight into the full extent of the care and support. Don't forget to mention things like pain, fatigue, motivation, and don't underestimate how much the impact. You'll know yourselves if someone overdoes it the night before or the day before or maybe a couple of days before, how long is their recovery? How long does it take? That a lot of people are just not able to bounce back straight away. Some of that could be down to age. I know as I get older and I overdo it, maybe I go for a 10-mile walk. I feel it the next day, that's for sure, and maybe the day after. But if I have other things that I've got going on as well, I might not be able to recover in 24 to 48 hours. It might take me 72 hours, or maybe it might be a week. So if something can be done, so I could go to the shops, say, so with support, I could go to the shops. But if it can't be done safely, so if I didn't have support and I went to the shops and I overdid it, and maybe I was fatigued or tired or something like that, and it took me 3 times as long as somebody else to do it, and actually I lost interest when I was halfway around the shop, so I didn't get everything that I needed. So if something can't be done safely, it can't be done repeatedly, and it can't be done in a reasonable time, and it can't be done to the same standard as everyone else, then don't say it can be done. Make it clear that things do take longer. It is a bit of a safety concern. It can't be done more than once, and it can't be done safely. So again, it's starting to just really build that picture for someone to see. Now, a lot of the language is what you need to become familiar with. So what is a reasonable length of time for someone to get dressed? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Is it half an hour? So it's all about what would be your normal length of time without the health conditions or disabilities that you're living with to do something. So if you could normally get dressed in 5 minutes, or you could get dressed in 5 minutes, and the person who has the long-term conditions and disabilities is taking 30 minutes, that's good for them, but actually it's taking longer because they need that extra time. So is that reasonable? Probably not. Do they have extreme pain and fatigue by doing it? Do they need to sit down? Then if they do, then it's not safe. Could they get dressed and then get undressed again quite quickly? Probably not. So then they can't repeat that activity. And can they do it to the same standard? So, people who have long-term disabilities and health conditions, they tend to adapt their clothing, for example, if it's going to make it easier. So elastic waists, pull-on shoes, over the head t-shirts and tops, there's no buttons, no laces, things like underwear, front fastening bras, so people make these adaptations. And yes, they can do things, but it's all about what have they had to change, because these are what the forms are looking at. And say how often help is needed. So rather than how often they get help. And this can be a completely different mindset. So for example, someone might have you coming in, or they might have carers coming in to make them a cup of tea and get them a sandwich. Okay, and so they get that help 3 times a day. So you might put that help is given 3 times a day to provide nutritious food and a hot drink. But actually that person might want to have a hot drink late at night, or they might want to have a hot drink first thing in the morning, or an afternoon cup of tea and a bit of cake. So how often would they need help to make a cup of tea? How often would they need help to go to the toilet? Not how often do they get that help, but how often would they need that help? And it's really important to give examples. Okay, you can't just say, oh, it's not safe for me. And we're going to look a little bit more into the language and examples in a moment, especially if things are difficult. And a big part of all form filling is just demonstrating the safety issue of things, so is it safe? Is it reasonable? Can that be expected? I'm going to continue just explaining a little bit more. So with all benefit claims, every claim that you make for financial support, it's up to you to prove that you're eligible. So you need to provide that information to the Department of Work and Pensions, or to your local authority, for example, about how you meet the eligibility criteria. And there is no general guarantee of eligibility based on a specific diagnosis. So that means that you may have a diagnosis, but actually you're not guaranteed to automatically be entitled to benefits. There are some special rules around people who get a terminal diagnosis. But in general, if we move aside from that, you need to prove that you're eligible. So I'm going to use a disability benefit. Personal independence payment and adult disability payment are 2 disability benefits that you may be familiar with. So adult disability payment is paid in Scotland. Personal independence payment is paid in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. To new claimants who are aged over 16 but under state pension age, or people who have been moved from previous benefits and are in that category age range. And it's a benefit that helps you with, it's a benefit that you can claim if you need help and support with your daily living or with mobility. So both benefits have a daily living component and a mobility component. So with daily living, it's very much around thinking around preparing food, washing, bathing, dressing, undressing, moving around and managing your medicines or treatments. And for the mobility component, this includes planning a journey or following a route or moving around outdoors, for example. Now, both benefits, they follow something called eligibility criteria. And within the eligibility criteria for these benefits, we have a number of activities. So this benefit is a point-based benefit. And within each activity, you can score points. And how you score points is through the different descriptors. So each descriptor is worth a set number of points. And if you show that this descriptor applies to the circumstance, then you'll be awarded the points. That's it in an essence. But as you would expect, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So what we need to think around when we're completing an application is the actual activity itself, and then think around the descriptor, and then again think around this mantra. Can whatever is needed to be done properly, be done most of the time safely, whenever someone needs to, in a reasonable time, and without the help of someone or an aid. So depending on the number of points you're rewarded for your response to the question, at the end, when it's totaled up, you'll either receive the standard or enhanced rate for each of the components. A total of 8 points will get you a standard payment and 12 points for the enhanced payment. So there's some different scoring that goes on around it. And I've included some links to the two benefits that I'm talking about. So we need to make the application, we need to consider the activities, and then we need to think around the descriptors. Now, when it comes to having a look at it, so for ease, one of the activities, so we've got things like washing, bathing, dressing, moving around, managing medication, etc. So one of the activities is one about preparing food. So I'm going to just use that as a little example. So the first thing that we need to do is read the guidance notes and become very familiar with what the question is actually asking us. And there are lots of websites that have got information on around the activity, the descriptor, the point scoring system, and I've included some links to them. So the first one, daily living activity, activity 1, is all around preparing food. Now, the first thing I just want to reassure you that this activity is not a reflection of someone's cooking skills. Okay? What it's looking at is the impact of a health condition or disability on that person's ability to carry out the task required to cook a simple meal. And as you would expect, there's a definition of what is a simple meal. So a simple meal could be something like sausage, mash, and peas. So what we're thinking around is your ability to open packaging, maybe serve the food, peel and chop the food, think around putting it on a plate, think around, are you going to be using a microwave or a cooker or a hob to heat the food? Carrying items around the kitchen is not included in this activity, but it is included in some of the other ones. So we're really thinking around how we can break this down. So a simple meal, it could be a one-course meal for one person, but using fresh ingredients. There's a different category for microwaving food, for example. But if we were wanting to microwave our veg, then we could include it in this activity. So that's the activity. And this is the point scoring system. So this is the descriptors. So this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different points that are available in there. So based on the descriptors, as you can see at the top of the chart there, if you can safely prepare and cook a simple meal without help most of the time, whenever you need it, and in reasonable time, you'll be awarded 0 points. Okay. But what's really important is even though you can cook a meal, so you will get no points for this, but actually the problems you have are to do with washing, dressing, bathing. Maybe you need support. Maybe you have more motivational needs. That doesn't stop you from still being awarded this benefit. It means that you'll acquire your points from the other categories, so from the other activities. So just because one activity doesn't apply to you, it doesn't stop you from still having a successful claim. But let's continue and look and see what some of these other descriptors are. So you would score 2 points if you needed to use an aid or appliance to be able to either prepare or cook a simple meal. And there's a whole definition of what are aids and appliances. If you cannot cook a simple meal using a conventional cooker, but you're able to do so using a microwave, then that would be 2 points. You need prompting to be able to prepare or cook a simple meal, again, 2 points. You would need supervision or assistance to prepare or cook a simple meal. That will be 4 points. And if you're unable and you cannot prepare and cook food full stop, then you will be awarded 8 points. So what does this work in practice? How are we going to actually demonstrate this? So I've linked through to the Scope website. So they're another charity. They have some really good examples, which I thought I would show you because they're quite generic. Now, if you're supporting someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia or lives with cystic fibrosis or multiple sclerosis, for example, look at their websites and they have specific information around completing disability forms. If you're supporting a child with ADHD, autism, for example, there are other organisational websites that are specific to different conditions. But with this one, I like it because it's quite generic and it gives you a bit of an idea about what you can do. So, when we're looking at preparing food, so what we're really thinking around is in the answer box, which descriptor we're going to apply for. So if, for example, descriptor B was the one that we really wanted to try and get those 2 points for. So when you're filling out the form, include the descriptor and always use the word because. Because is your friend. So you need to try and give examples of difficulties or accidents you've had when attempting the activity or when you've needed help or used an aid or appliance. So we're back to that diary again. You need to have that evidence to be able to fill this in. So, for example, descriptor B, I need to use an aid or appliance to prepare or cook a simple meal. That's the descriptor. Most of the time, remember, we're not saying that we can do it or not do it, but most of the time, because I am unable to stand without support. So I cannot wash vegetables at the sink. I can't carry a hot pan from the stove to the table. I can drop plates of food, which means I have to start again. If I'm too tired to do that, I do not eat. Okay, so obviously if someone doesn't eat, that can have detrimental effects on them, for example. And then we've got some more examples there. So the microwave, descriptor C, if we remember, 2 points, all about the microwave. I cannot cook a simple meal using a conventional cooker, and I cannot use a microwave most of the time because I'm unable to grip and pull open the door of a microwave, so I rarely eat a hot meal. And then you could expand on that, unless my daughter, my carer, my son, my nephew, my neighbour, comes in and they only come in 1 to 2 times a week, for example. Prompting, I need prompting to prepare or cook a simple meal most of the time because my condition means I forget to eat, very common, or I do not remember things. So if no one is there to remind me, I do not eat. I once caught a tea towel on fire because I forgot the gas ring was on and I put the towel down. Or I put some cheese on toast under the grill. Or I boiled a pan over when I was doing boiled eggs. There are so many different examples that would apply to the situation. And then if you need supervision or assistance, we expand a little bit more. Most of the time my condition means I can't hold kitchen utensils, plates or pans. If I try to pick up something, I will drop it. I once cut my leg when I dropped a kitchen knife, for example. And then if someone does not prepare food for me, I do not eat. Someone once went 24 hours without eating because the person who was providing care had to go to hospital for an emergency and I was unable to tell anyone, So really just put those examples in there. Okay, but there's a but. You're probably thinking, well, that sounds a bit too simple. It is. So within each activity, even though more than one descriptor might apply in the circumstances, you can only be awarded the highest number of points for the descriptor in that activity. So, for example, if someone needs to use an aid or appliance, they would be awarded 2 points. But if they also needed supervision or assistance to prepare the simple meal, they would be awarded 4 points. Both apply. You can't get 6 points though. What they'll do is they'll award you 4. So you'll get the highest. So you'll get 4 points for needs supervision or assistance. But those 4 points can be added to maybe 2 points that someone needs help and support for washing and bathing. Maybe another 2 points, somebody needs assistance to get dressed. Another 2 points, someone can't manage their medications. So there are lots of different activities where you can score points. So it might be that actually you go low and slow. So you go for the lowest scoring ones that which you can evidence because someone's got a health condition that is quite broad and affects a lot of areas in their lives. Or it could be that actually you can see that someone is going to score the highest in the category and you've got the evidence to show that. So that's where you show that that person has that need. So just to summarize, okay, set plenty of time aside to complete the application. Read through the whole application and download or go through the guidance notes. They're only teeny tiny. You might need a magnifying glass for this, but it is worth it. Don't be afraid to repeat the same information over and over and over, especially if it relates to different sections of the form. Don't rely on a decision maker to tie up different sections for you. So if you have explained difficulties people have getting in and out of a chair or getting in and out of bed, and they have the same difficulties getting on and off the toilet, link back to, as I previously explained in activity number 3, I have difficulties going from a seated to standing position because that is still going to apply if someone has that difficulty because they're going from seated to standing on a toilet. So if they've got a raised toilet seat, guess what that is? That's an aid. If someone needs an aid or adaptation, that's 2 points. Okay, so don't be afraid to just cross-reference within it. Collect all those documents and information you need to complete the application. Do you need proof, for example, medical evidence that you cut your leg when you're preparing a meal? You wouldn't necessarily need proof as such, but you will have that proof because if you've cut your leg, you'll have what happened. You'll be able to put it in your diary. You'll be able to demonstrate it. And in all likelihood, if someone you're caring for has cut their leg, you're going to have received a phone call or you're going to have been there. And so then you can provide a supporting statement. Keep those copies of all your applications. We've talked a little bit about phones and scanning. If another organisation completes it for you, in all likelihood, they'll be happy to provide a copy for you to take home. They may be keeping a copy on their records, and then you'll be able to go back. If you've had a previous claim, actually, this is just worth mentioning. If you've had a previous claim, and this is a renewal claim that you're doing, the DWP keep on file all previous applications. And there's no time limit for how long they keep them. They keep them on file. So you can write to them and request copies of your previous forms, copies of your previous medical assessments. And then you've got an idea of what you put last time. And then you can, just double check that you're not contradicting any previous claims that you have that are current, but also you can look to see where maybe things have changed. And so you can, just include that extra information. And of course, you've got that information there that you can copy over from your first applications there as well. If you do need that extra time, get in touch with them. Normally they'll give you 2 to 4 weeks, but only if you apply before the deadline. They need to put it on the file that actually there's an extra 4 weeks. And it could be that you're waiting for an appointment with a benefit advisor. So you ring them up and say, I've got a form due back on Tuesday. I can't get an appointment till Friday, and they'll extend the deadline by 2 to 4 weeks. But that should always be done before the deadline runs out. It's virtually impossible to get them to extend a deadline after the deadline. Still submit the claim, no harm done. If it's a new claim, it just means it will be processed from the date that the claim's what's the word, received. So, you know, it's okay, but it's much better if you know you're going to run out of time to ask for that deadline. And just this last one, which I really like, reward yourself. Okay, so filling in forms, it can be time consuming, it can be worrying, it can be anxious, you can become very stressed over it. You're focusing so much on the form. And with these forms, they're quite negative. So you're focusing on what can't be done all of the time. But actually, you need to really focus on, you know, what good and support you're providing. That person is doing things with your help and support, for example. You know, they are able to do things. So take that time just to reward yourself, because sometimes you can feel a little bit demoralized afterwards. So just take that time to give yourself a pat on the back. It's really hard to fill out a form. Not only if you're doing it by hand, do you get cramp, but also the thinking process behind it. So give yourself a little treat, even if it's just 5 minutes in the garden with a cup of tea. You can tell I'm a cup of tea girl, can't you? Cup of tea and a bit of cake. Then just do that and know that, you know, if anything needs any further attention further on, there is help and support there. So I've included some further resources. So I've tried to do things like if you're claiming for children, claiming for adults, the different benefits there, if you need any help, and also how you can find someone local to you there as well on there. And of course, what you can do is contact us. Before I just pop my contact details up there once more. Oh, I was a little bit hasty there. Those of you who may be new to caring, you might not know that there's a guide that's available, and it's got an introduction to a lot of different benefits, support, so emotional, financial, practical, available across the 4 nations there. It might be it's been a while since you've had a look at it. So please do have a look at it now. And maybe your needs are changed since you first started caring, or as I've said, you're new to caring. So always just have a little look to make sure that you're not missing out. So many people miss out because they don't know, or they don't think that there's going to be any help. So the looking after someone guide is something that we always just recommend. And here's just how you can get in touch. So there's general help and advice available on the website, or you can email us. You can go through the contact us page, or I should know this and I always get it wrong. It's advice@carersuk.org, possibly. But yeah, I've got a thumbs up. I never know my own email address. It's never good, is it? So if you want to send something through to me, you can mark your attention to Liz or one of my colleagues. If it's community care, for example, one of my colleagues can pick it up. No problem at all.